model, by the way, has correctly predicted 24 of the past 26 presidential elections, including President Trump's election in 2016. Joining us tonight, Helmut Norpoth. He is political science professor at Stony Brook University in New York. And Helmut, it's great to see you again. And you are predicting that who will win in 2020?
Well, thank you for having me back again. And I'm predicting that Donald Trump has a 91% chance of being reelected.
91%. My gosh. This model of yours, we've talked about this model, which is extraordinary in terms of its accuracy. How do you imagine somebody like CNN could come up with a model that would project 400 electoral votes? Does that seem to you to be, well, within the realm generally of what we call science?
Well, I don't go by opinion polls. I go by the real polls. I go by what happens in the primary elections. And in those primary elections, especially in the early ones, Donald Trump did very well. And Joe Biden, as many of you may have forgotten by now, struggled handily in New Hampshire, where he came in fifth. Now, he did much better in another one in South Carolina and from that point on. But these early primaries, these early votes, provide a very powerful metric for predicting what is going to happen in November.
And what is most persuasive to you in the model? Is there one area within the model that you find particularly relevant in this election season and which you think might be determinant going into November 3rd?
Well, as you mentioned already, overall, the model has done quite well over about 100 years of presidential elections. So that's one thing that gives me a lot of confidence that it's going to be working out again. But as I said, the contest in primaries is, to me, a very powerful predictor. And it's a real test. It's not just asking people hypothetically, what are you going to do? It's what people are doing. And a state like New Hampshire, for example, is one in which you essentially have an open primary. It's not just the base. It's not just Republicans coming out to vote. It's Republicans and independents and even some Democrats who may figure that this time I'd rather vote in the Republican primary. And in that primary, Donald Trump won something like 86% of the vote against an opponent who's not really like a nobody, William Weld. And on the other hand, Joe Biden had a struggle where he came in fifth in single digits. And I don't know of any presidential nominee who did so poorly in New Hampshire who went on to win in November.
It is, people tend to have short memories when it comes to election year politics, particularly presidential election year politics. But I don't think many of those pollsters have much of a short memory about you, Helmut. Your model moving forward, you're watching nonsense from so-called clever fellows, whether it's at the New York Times or ESPN, whomever it might be. They were off, and I have to tell you, it made my as one of those people privileged to be reporting on the president's historic victory, I have to tell you, it was so much fun. I was laughing out loud through the evening to watch this. It's just great fun to see everybody so wrong. But you would think they would come to you and say, Helmut, we need a little help here. Do they ever do that?
I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting for the phone call, even though I did work in the newsroom of the New York Times for many years on election nights with exit polls. But I think all the people that I used to know there have long left, and I think the people there now don't know me. So that's just the way it is. And I know it's a big gap between asking people a hypothetical question, especially that early in the election cycle, and looking at something that has sort of worked for quite a while in presidential elections.
Well, I want to put up that full screen, Helmut, as you were talking, that we put up. If we can see that again, folks. There we go. these are some of the bright folks I was talking about. 538, a 29% chance on election day that he would win. The New York Times, 15%. The Daily Kos, 8%. The Huffington Post going for the win, 1.7% only. But they taking away the lowest possibility, the Princeton Election Consortium. That is a consortium that probably has been busted up by now in just pure embarrassment. Your thoughts as we wrap up here? I'm going to give you the last word. How does it look right now to you, your forecast?
Well, all of these predictions that you mentioned, they're all based on polling, national polling, state polling, and I think the biggest flaw last time was in some critical battleground polls that they used to make the forecast for the final tally, and these battleground state polls were just way off, and I don't know whether people are doing these polls have figured out what the problem was and have fixed it. So until I learn about that and get convinced that things are going better, I'm not too worried about it.
All right. Helmut Norpoth, it's great to see you. Come back soon. We'll be, as it were, taking your temperature throughout between now and Election Day about the race. My guess is that you won't change by 1 degree. Thanks so much, Helmut. Good to have you with us. President Trump will win, says Helmut Norpoth, and he was right not only in 2016 about that election, but 24 of the 26 past elections. New York City Mayor Bill de Blasio standing by his decision to shut down religious services as he allowed demonstrators, protesters, and rioters to march through New York streets. Pastor Robert Jeffress is with us next. Stay with us.